I'm going to ask you guys to kind of introduce yourselves and a little bit about yourselves so that they know where you guys are coming from, and we'll kick this off.
Ladies first.
I'm Heather Taylor. I'm with the Greater Akron Chamber, and the reason I was particularly interested in being a part of the panel is I think that I've done everything wrong you can do with social media, so I come at it from that aspect to kind of help you weave and bob out of etiquette errors and things like that from a social media standpoint. And thanks, Bob, for having me here. Appreciate it.
Cool, super. My name's Mike Sheehan. I'm in the life insurance business and had gotten involved in social media to build that business, and it's taken me to places I never thought I would be. And that was 3 years ago, and I think in dog years, it's like 30 years as far as social media is being concerned. But yeah, hopefully we'll have a few things that we can share with you and kind of help you on your journey down this road.
Cool. And we may get some feedback. So we're seeing some, we just got told that Mike was a little bit off camera, and so we just changed the camera a little bit. So thanks for that feedback, and also feel free to ask questions. This is going to be, and then there's me over here. Story of my life. So this is going to be a free-form discussion, all right? And when we first took a look at this, oh, one quick thing I do want to make a mention, because this is kind of big news. Microsoft just released this week Office 2013, which will be released. Anybody want to take a guess on when?
2012.
That's why he's in sales, folks. Yeah, it'll be introduced early next year. This is in conjunction with Windows 8. We will be talking about this very much in depth at our September lunch and hour. Our August lunch and hour, of course, is our annual picnic. One of the key things here, it's a free trial. You can anybody can download it and give it a shot. And unlike other earlier betas, you don't have to unload your current version of Office. So you can have your Office 2007, 2010 running, download, install this puppy, give it a shot, and work with that while still staying in the safe area. So that's kind of cool. However, and this is just so you're aware moving forward, you gotta have Windows 7 or Windows 8. And if you've got anybody running Windows 8? Am I the only one? Thank you. I felt lonely there for a moment. Yeah, I've got it on my Samsung. It's challenging. Yeah, as we talked about, we did a lunch and hour about 3 months ago, and that was the very specific point we made, was that Windows 8, a lot of the benefits for Windows 8 are for the tablet. And guess what? A lot of the benefits for Office 2012 are in the tablet, because Microsoft knows they have to go after that very, very aggressively. So, don't want to get too much into that, but it's free. Anybody can download it, can run it. We've got a blog on our bizblog.simplex-it.com, and we've got links to how to download it, as well as a couple reviews, and we'll be posting more information on that. I just wanted to let you know that that is available. Okay? Cool. When we started talking about doing this, we sort of went back and forth on the what's the topic, and one thing I'm sick of are those, here's how you get started on Facebook. Here's how you get your LinkedIn set, because by now we've hopefully all gone and been there, done that, got the t-shirt. And we're getting to the point where social media is, you may not call it a mature industry, but certainly it's a mainstream industry. And so where are we as individuals, where are we as businesses, and where do we go from here? And that's kind of where we at least started with as far as the focus goes on this. So that's kind of where we're going. I want to make very clear, and I'm talking a lot on this one, and I'm going to shut up a lot on moving forward, but this is a three-way conversation. You guys give feedback, these guys are going to be pointing out things, folks who are online, absolutely text in some comments, whatever, and we're going to hopefully take advantage and address a lot of issues. Okay. One of the biggest questions to start off with is, who are you, and what are you trying to reach? Why would you guys say that's critical?
Well, knowing who your audience is, your target market, is key, because how do you market to someone if you don't know who they are? You know, if you're fishing for bass, you want to go to a bass pond. Let's make sure we're going to the right place.
I would have thought you would have done the fishing metaphor.
I don't fish.
If you want a Zumba.
I don't. I don't fish, I just catch. I know for me it was, I saw it as an avenue to meet people and not knowing how many I was going to meet or where I would meet them from, but it was an avenue that I saw in the back of my mind that, hey, this is a venue where I can meet folks. And that's what really motivated me to start it. I'm in a business where, you know, I need to talk to people. And some of the traditional ways of doing it were rather boring and tedious, and I thought, here I can get across and talk to people across the country. I mean, I was on a conference call yesterday, and one of the girls was in the UK. And it had nothing to do with something other than insurance, but I mean, she's in the UK, and we're talking like we're sitting here. You know, so it just takes you to places that you couldn't do, and exposes you to people that you'd never get to meet.
So quick question here. How many folks, when you consider social media in terms of what you're trying to accomplish, how many of you are looking for business to business? Okay, cool. We got about 30 people, and I say about 2/3. How many are business to consumer? Okay, cool. That's most of everybody else. How many are a combination of both? Okay. How many just like raising your hands because you didn't earlier, but now you feel like you should? Okay, yeah. It's okay, I'm with you. But there's a huge difference there, you know, and you can actually see it because you remember all of the Facebook postings and all of the tweets and all that where business people will be talking about what they ate for dinner. You know, because that's how I'm going to choose an auto mechanic, was whether or not they ate at restaurant A or restaurant B.
Well, so I told, you know, a lot of people that I work with, my mom doesn't necessarily need to know who our next member of the chamber is, and I don't think that our members care that my son has a trombone appointment.
He does?
See, I should have posted it. But it was, you know, church and state for me. That was two separate things.
Well, yeah, it also goes to what you're wanting your message to be. I'll put some pictures about the kids on there, even on my business page on Facebook. But I don't get really specific as far as, you know, the minute-by-minute events. That's just my choice. But I have been able to reach out to people because I saw something they did or saw something they were. So you just, you know, you don't know.
Cool. Bob, you had a comment?
Yeah. No, actually two. First of all, one of the things that I've really discovered with the social media is the misinterpretation of things that happen because you don't pick up the intonation of the voice or the expression of the face or whatever. Is that down the road where there'll be an instant video? For example, if I want to hook up with somebody on LinkedIn and I want to send them a message, I can physically send them an instant activity message. We can talk with each other, see each other's face, see each other's. Is that something down the road?
Well, you can't do that now. But the other aspect, and I'm glad you kind of touched on that, social media is not a place to solve problems. You know, it's not a place to engage in that type of conversation. It's merely an avenue to exchange information. Because personally, I'm not that good of a writer that I can convey my emotions in that little bit of a, 140 character text on Twitter.
And guess what? They still don't have a sarcastic font for you to
Yes.
type in if you are doing it.
Right.
So,
And so so be careful of that. And that's, certainly where the kids are the most guilty. You see all this emotion they try to, and then you hear them texting, well, I didn't mean that, And so that's rule number one, is you don't solve, you're not looking to solve problems or to engage in that. That's when you pick up the phone. That's when you meet with that person face to face. I mean, yesterday I started from a reach out on LinkedIn to, by the end of the day, I was on the phone with this gentleman. And we first connected yesterday morning, but it ended up with a phone call.
And the second thing, question is in regards to the, I don't know what the term is, the harvesting of data. That there are people out there that literally, if you become too descriptive about particular things, they use that supposedly innocent data that you put on the internet and for unscrupulous.
Well, that's just another reason. Nothing disappears. You may think you're taking it to your trash bin. It doesn't go away. you know, because you don't know where they sent it, and you can convey that to pictures and things like that, but certainly words. I mean, in my conversations with my clients, I'm saving all of those conversations just so I, you know, so I can remember. But
right.
It's
the harvesting of data for unscrupulous.
Well, and I think that in any platform that you use, you're going to have people that will turn it and make it and use it for an unscrupulous purpose, whether it be, you know, yellow page listings, ads in the paper. They could thieve your mail. I mean, if people want to be unscrupulous, having a different platform to do it isn't going to stop them or encourage them. It's just who they are. So while I'm very careful about what I pick and choose to post, some people aren't. And, you know, we've all seen examples of that. And I will tell you, my bonus kiddo posted his home address, cell phone, everything on his Facebook. And I went, are you, I about choked. Well, only my friends follow me. Really? All right. The internet is still typed in ink. It's not going anywhere. So even that he took it down, I'm afraid that they even put, you know, it can be as little as their sports team on Facebook, and that gets you at least to a city.
Here's one of the challenges that's happening here, is when you consider a century ago, the same conversation was happening regarding phone calls.
Sure.
There were people who were saying, if you have a conversation with somebody over the phone, you lose the intimacy of a direct conversation. So we can't see what their expression was. And there were many people throughout that time who refused to use a telephone because of that. Later on, when email, people started talking about nobody writes letters anymore. And it used to be when there was a letter, you took the time to communicate. It had meaning. So part of the thing is technology has cheapened the cost of communication, but it also has dramatically affected the content of the message and the distribution of the message. So that now you as the, you know, because social media, whenever we're communicating to the rest of the world, we're the publisher, right? We're the one who's sharing whatever that is. We have zero control over that as soon as it leaves. Zero. We can't hope that all the newspapers that the ad was in was thrown away. We can't hope that that yellow page edition gets thrown out. We can't do that. It's gone.
Oh, yeah.
As far as
So
control.
You say this to your mother.
right. There you go.
No, because my mother would be fine with but anyway. But yeah, I mean, there's a very cautious thing there. And again, and this gets to positioning. When you talk about how do you want to promote yourself business to business, depending upon verticals, is very different than if you're going business to consumer. If you are looking for that soft relationship between you and your customers, let's say, for example, that you are, you know, a fitness instructor. Not that I know any, but if you were a fitness instructor, the type of communication that you would have with people versus someone who is very much into fiscal security, totally different in terms of how you want to be interpreted. So would you send something that you wouldn't send to your mother? Possibly in those areas. But you've got to have the, to me, this is like one of the key questions that you've got to have a good handle on. But you'll also notice you should also have that good handle in traditional marketing as well. You know, before you put an ad in a paper or do a mailer or do a, you know, phone call campaign, you know, again, who you're talking to is going to be very different. So. Goals. What do we mean when we talk about goals? I mean, what?
Well, it should be something a little bit beyond. Somebody somewhere said I should post on Facebook.
But we're supposed to.
Right.
Mission accomplished.
Yep.
Cool.
You know everything. Yeah.
But I mean, so we have a marketing plan, right? How many of you guys have a marketing plan right now for your organization or yourselves? Okay, maybe a third, probably closer to a quarter. And how many of you actually visit and follow and track the marketing plan? Okay, just to open up, the rest of you, why not? Because. Well, don't be afraid. We're just going to make fun of you for a while, and this will be up on the internet, and everybody will know. It's hard to measure. You can't always collect if you don't know where the fees or money came from. So sometimes you're looking for that empirical answer of we got 6 out of this and it cost us $100. And it's hard to do that. We run out of time. That never happens to me. By the way, I have to leave early. Okay, cool. Hey, lunch is free, okay? Any other thoughts? Any other?
I think people just fall into that pitfall. It's one more thing. You just can't add one more thing.
One of the biggest struggles I have is what to post, how to keep it fresh, and interesting.
You're talking about as far as I'm going to blog or just?
In general.
Yeah, all three.
Well, how I get people to engage with me is I'm asking questions about them. So you have to take the word I out of your communication online. Nobody cares about you, but you ask about them. And I was just speaking with these folks. The easiest way that I've gotten people to engage with me on LinkedIn is I can see people that are searching my profile. So my first thing in the subject line, which it has a little drop down, I don't even have to type it in, it says, I saw you search my profile. And then I will put in my thing, 2 sentences, say, hey, I saw you search my profile. Tell me a little bit about your business. And by the way, tell me how you've been using LinkedIn. I get almost 100% of people will respond back to me. Now, when I was going out to them saying, here's what I do, and here's this, and here's my link, and go over to see me on Facebook, got 0. Got 0 response. But when I was asking about them, and that's how this call started yesterday. I saw he was on there because I check that every morning. And I saw, and I'll go to those people and reach back out to them, and that's a little phrase. I'll say, how are you? What have been your successes, and how have you been using LinkedIn? Almost, and I'm getting to presidents of companies with that. What's that?
Use that same method with Twitter.
I don't personally, because the only question you ever answer on Twitter is, what are you doing?
Yeah.
That's why people follow you. You can't ask someone about themselves necessarily, but it's a different audience. I'm not necessarily connected with the same people on LinkedIn as I am on Twitter, as I am on Facebook, Pinterest, Foursquare. I mean, it's all a different audience. So many times there may be 7 different messages going out, and they all need to be fresh, and they all need to be specific to who may be putting eyes on it at that moment. And it's not easy.
Twitter, I'll do the same thing because I get that little blitz that says this person connected with you on Twitter. So the first thing you want to do is go back and connect with that person because that helps your analytics in Twitter and your balance and everything. But I will put on there, and let's say the person reached out to me and they said, hey, by the way, go see my Facebook page. Guess what? Hey, thanks for the connection. See more about me on my Facebook page. And then I, like my page and I see another like, So I'm just kind of giving back what they gave me, but it's always focusing on them. And a lot of times people want to shortcut that, and then you realize why nobody comes in, because it's you're building a relationship and it's a step by step. I use the analogy: you didn't ask your wife or your husband to get married on the first date. It was a process. Same thing with this.
I'm a little more, I think you connect easier with people than I do, because from my vantage point, if I'm connected with someone on LinkedIn and somebody's looking at my connections, to some degree that's a testimonial. If I've taken the time to connect with someone, there's a reason, or from my vantage point, there should be. I don't accept every invitation that I get. I've gotten some from the United Arab Emirates. I don't know, I'm not heading there, Abu Dhabi's not in the plan. That for me is not necessarily a benefit, but I will specifically ask them, thanks for reaching out, how is it that you see me being a resource for you? Maybe there is a specific reason that they want to connect, and if that's the case, hey, you know what? I live in the United Arab Emirates, but guess what? I'm moving to Akron in 2 months. Fantastic. I don't just automatically say, okay, well, I'm not going to be any good for them. I'm not going to connect. I will reach out, but I think at that level, I probably get a whole lot less return emails than you do.
Let me give you a different perspective, because what we're doing is we're trying to share information to anybody who's interested. So we're not quite as surgical. So to give you an idea, we're not necessarily the experts. So this is our blog site. Terribly, terribly interesting. And here's an article that talks about the new version of Office is out. Here's another one that talks about our next lunch and ours going live. Here's another one that talks about Office 365 is now free for educators. no more small business server. There's nothing earth-shattering here. It's news that we think small business owners might be interested in. And you'll notice in a lot of cases what we do is we say, here's some information, and here's where you can find out more. We want to be known as content experts. And we also know that in the field of IT, a lot of IT people keep that close to the chest. They'll say, yeah, we know about this. Huh, you can't actually see it. They don't share it because there's that condescending, we know better than you do, so we'll tell you what you need. And we want to be so far away from that stereotype. That's why we do these. So what we then do is we actually will put this up on the blog. We will then tweet that there's a blog entry with a shortcut to the blog entry. We will post it on our Facebook page, that there's a blog entry, here's a shortcut to the blog entry, and we'll post it on LinkedIn. So all three of those, we're taking that one piece of information, sharing that to those three areas automatically. Because one thing that we know is that there are some people out there who learn through Facebook. There are some people out there who learn through LinkedIn. There are some people out there who learn from Twitter. There are some people who just read blogs. There are some people who just read e-newsletters. And we can't be everything to everybody, but we can have a central store of that information, which we've chosen as our blog, and then distribute how you find out about it to those ways. Does that make sense? And then we measure, we get into how do we measure it, how many people came here. And we can actually see how many came from Twitter, how many came from Facebook, how many came from LinkedIn. So now we've got some metrics. Does that turn into dollars? Not necessarily, but we also get reports as to who comes to our sites from what sites. So we've got some soft metrics to take a look at through that. Bob, and then you.
That's a very excellent thing in regards to marketing. For example, I look at that website or that newsletter that you get, and I might have someone who is a client in education who would very much like to have that information. Right. I can be the conduit for that information, and by doing so, I show to him, I'm much more interested in you, not because I wanted to sell you something else, but this might be information that can build a long-term mutual beneficial relationship that then allows him to recommend me to his friend.
Absolutely. So you're positioning yourself by doing, by forwarding that information, you're positioning yourself as a content expert.
Right.
That you know of this. And this may be knowledge that you don't have, but here's somebody who does.
And that's an excellent point too, because a lot of people don't like to be sold. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
They don't want you to contact them all the time just to try to sell them something. They want to build that relationship, have that connection, and it's just like, it's just like you go to a car lot, People know that the minute that guy walks up to them, they're only talking to you because they want to sell them something. So when you have a connection that's not just a sales thing, people tend to be more open to that relationship.
Mm-hmm. It helps establish that individual as an apostle for you, so that even when they might hear someone who's interested in your product, they're more willing, because you've had a connection with them, to pass that information on back to you. Absolutely. So yeah, it's a long-term mutual beneficial relationship, but indeed, the individual must take advantage of that aspect.
Yes.
If you hear something, pass it on.
Absolutely. Mike, you're trying to...
Yeah, I was just curious how you could figure out how many people you got to come to this from Twitter.
It actually, so the question is, how do you get the metrics? And this is one where I am not the brightest bulb on the tree on this, but there are many tools that are available that will show who's come to your website and from what site they've come to. Or
we use the same WordPress, and it's actually built into WordPress.
Yeah.
You can see exactly where people are coming from, what search terms they're.
Yeah.
And I think there's something for each platform.
But built in, it's metrics all.
Yep.
I mean, I like the gentleman that hosts my website. He can tell whether they're on an iPad, on a phone, on a desktop, on a laptop. So I mean, it's...
Yeah, so how do you measure when people connect to you and from where? Unfortunately, at the same time, you've got people who they're running software that prevents that information from being shared. So it's not going to give you 100%, but it's going to give you better. It's going to give you better. So there's a lot of that stuff built in. Yes, you had a quick.
Hi, my name is Eva, and I am interested in coming from a place of already being on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and then wanted to start up a business and incorporate those social media into the business when you already have personal accounts? Should you try to transition your personal accounts for the business, or establish accounts specifically for the business?
Cool, good question.
Well, LinkedIn.
So just to repeat, so the question is that you're starting a new opportunity, business, the like. So the question is, do you use your existing more personal profiles and migrate, or do you start over in it?
I mean, too, it depends on the business, but too, LinkedIn, you can have a business page. Facebook, you can have a business page. So you definitely need to do that. Now, whether you use both of those, I mean, I have 2 business pages, and depending on who I'm talking to, may depend on the link that I send. And I post a lot of the same. What's that? Well, the only way I make it easy is I have different profile pictures. So I know in my head, all right, this is for the insurance and this is for the marketing and stuff. So when I'm copying and pasting that.
Can you reverse those? Meaning, if you have set up your LinkedIn and your Facebook for business as a business side, is there a personal page that you can add to a business?
Well, LinkedIn, you have your page and you can have a business page.
We have your profile and a page.
Right, so you can have a separate business page on LinkedIn. On Facebook, you have to have a personal page to get a business page.
Okay.
Yeah, so it doesn't work in reverse.
You can't eliminate the personal page. Say, I just want, this is just for business. No, you got to have that personal page on there.
Now the benefit, Geneva, of what you're asking is, it's kind of like cooking. You're starting with a warmed oven already. You don't need to preheat. You're already there. You've already got followers. You already know people who, when you ultimately take that next step, me as a reader, and that's how I always post, is from the reader's perspective. Is this interesting? Is this what I'm looking for on their page? I have had a few friends who have started businesses and ultimately turn their personal platforms into business. And sometimes it turns me off because that's not why I'm following. I'm following because we're in PTA together, and now all of a sudden you're hitting me with, oh, and I sell XYZ. When they have a business page, then I think it's great that they will post a link. Hey, guess what? I just kicked off a new business. You follow me here. I would love to inform you on fill in the service. Please go and like this page, follow me here, whatever the case may be. But it's great that you've already got that, because it's much easier than getting the business and working backwards.
And then too, on both Facebook and LinkedIn, you can do polls. You want to ask. So, I mean, I just said one about a month ago was, do you see a value in having a mobile business card? So that kind of gave me perspective on the number of people, and out of that, 99% said yes. So I'm going to now put some more stuff out about that, all right, to people. I do a lot of personal training, and so I just put this on yesterday on LinkedIn. That was on Facebook. I did that on LinkedIn. Is, do you believe that you should, how did I put it? The poll was, do you believe that you should exercise after age 50? Yes or no? I just want to see the aspect of the the aspect of the interest in that. I'm over 50, so I'm wanting to see where the interest is. So I'm reaching out to the people. I'm not just selling my stuff, because if you go out there just selling your stuff, it's not going to work.
My remote control works just fine.
You may also consider, when you have personal contacts, consider it as a real life example. So if I ran into a colleague or a coworker in Giant Eagle, would I go up and talk work immediately to them?
Yeah.
Right.
So if I've got
Absolutely.
friends and I walked into Giant Eagle, would I say sell?
Right.
That's a great
Yeah. So how would you deal?
Awesome.
How would you deal with real life interaction with your friends? Just to repeat, the one other comment that I would make on this is, what are your goals? When you set up a business, regardless of whether it's social media, traditional media, whatever, you're looking to communicate with that business in a certain way. Is that helped by what you've already set up, or would what you've already set up be distracting? So in other words, if you've set up this whole family thing, if you've got the wrong oven set at the wrong temperature with the wrong stuff in it, get a new oven. If my wife is watching this, no. I really hope my wife's not watching this. But you see what I'm saying? And because one of the problems, or one of the issues you have, is kind of like what he was saying with the when you run into a friend, is there's a lot of us who are on the job 24/7. You know, and when you do something, I'll give you a personal example. I know it'll be hard to say. I do improv comedy. Okay, I've done it for about 10 years. And most of you are going, huh, really? I did my best to keep that side of what I did away from this. Until about 2 years ago, I finally said, back with it. But that was not that I'm ashamed of it, not that I'm embarrassed by it or whatever, but there was that kind of
professional choice.
Yeah, it was just that was not part of what I wanted initial discussions to be with people. I still don't flout it, or whatever, flaunt it, flaunt it. Nor do I flaunt my knowledge of the English vocabulary. But that's a choice. Does that make sense? Cool.
Just, I wanted to mention, he was talking about the blog thing, and I do exactly what he was talking about. Now, the other aspect of this is, and I like to describe it as spinning plates. What's going on in Google and stuff is like spinning plates, and there's not just one aspect of what's going to get you exposure or drive traffic. So the reason I have a blog is not so much that I want people to read it, it's what Google likes as far as, at the end of the day, driving traffic to my site. So it's picking that up. Because I have certain hyperlinks and things that are in there for a reason. Now, if somebody happens to read it, great. I mean, my blog's about life insurance, but it's about the personal side. What it meant to somebody to have a policy when they died, or when somebody died too early, or whatever. So it's stories. It's not about the facts and figures and all that other stuff. That's like getting a needle stuck in your eye, you know. But I did it for an ulterior motive. It was to enhance the driving of the traffic to the people to my quote site who want to purchase it. So there's a lot going on, and you know, I know about that much of it. But yeah, it's not just one aspect of marketing when you go into this, and that's somewhat of what can be frustrating or just overwhelming.
And from the other end of a blogging spectrum, I'm at the complete opposite end, where I really want people to read the blogs that I'm going to be putting out, because who I'm featuring in there is our members at the Chamber. So I'm not putting it out to drive our SEO, but I can put our members' websites in there, tell about why they are different. You know, there might be, I'm just guessing, a couple of IT companies in the area, right? I'm just putting it out there. Of course, they're not buying you lunch, though, are they?
This one's the best.
Right?
Whatever one this happened to be. You guys,
whoever they are.
Hello, Springfield.
But that's an opportunity for me to help our members, give them added value. And yes, I'm looking for, one of my goals is more visibility, but it's not necessarily for me. It's for someone else. So when I sent my sheet over to John to have him tell me all about Simplex-IT, that's what I'm going to blog about. I can put a link to their blog, I can put a link to their website, it's going to help them. So I'm from a different perspective in that I'm merely the conduit to get somebody somewhere else, not to my content.
But that is a goal.
Right.
So
It's
you
specific.
have a goal specific
Right.
for what you're doing.
And this goes back, just using blog as an example. You can have a blog for, my case is more for driving traffic. You have a blog where Heather is intensely sending content they want people to read. And I know people that use a blog to sell things.
Oh, yeah.
That have made millions of dollars.
Sure.
So again, deciding, and your goal is, okay, how am I going to use this?
And specifically to every platform.
Yeah.
I don't use a blog in the same way that I will use LinkedIn. They're all completely different.
So let's, if anybody's willing, does someone have a particular organization or need or vertical that you'd like us to speak of specifically as far as when we talk about goals? So right now, because we've been talking about sort of just around and about. Does anybody have a type of company that we'd like to talk about goals for social media strategy? Go ahead. Okay. Okay, so let's deal with that briefly. So essentially, as we move forward, first of all, one of my friends said, and I think it's truer today than it was when she first said it like 20 years ago, the definition of obsolescence in IT is, does it work? If it works, it's obsolete. Okay? And so we're constantly finding ourselves with these old computers, old screens, old printers, old laptops, old these things that we need to get rid of. And both from an environmental standpoint, from a security standpoint, from a cost standpoint, that gets very convoluted. It gets very confusing. So from that standpoint, The issue on that is if someone was looking to provide that niche, to help in that niche from a service standpoint, you have to recognize, are you looking to do that for, so we've had companies that have replaced like 500 desktops at a time. That person wants to get rid of, that's an IT manager, that person wants to get rid of 500 used computers and dispose of a large quantity of stuff versus somebody else who they just are getting rid of their 4-year-old desktop because they got a new one for Christmas. You know, very different. So you need to kind of know what's that market you're talking to. But then in both cases, those are people who are not necessarily going to be looking to everything you say every day because they don't need that service every day, but they want to find it when they do.
Sure.
Okay? So versus somebody else who it is a frequent need. You know, if we'll use that person versus someone else who is, again, a fitness instructor. A fitness instructor may be giving me helpful thoughts or information that I will ignore, but that I should be following, that I should be following to become healthier. So this person in the waste disposal area wants to be visible for when someone needs him or her.
And like you said, why someone needs him or her. Is it from that green and sustainability standpoint, or is it from, we just want this stuff out of here, we want it out of here quick, and we want to make sure that, you know, none of our sticky secrets are still left on there when it goes. It's two completely different audiences.
Absolutely, it is more complicated. There are issues such as time management, as you're saying, but that's not going to be handled through the social media.
Right.
Absolutely. But in those cases where there's like compatibility or the other issues, there still is, you want to be, that person would want to be the content expert to everybody that's looking out there for disposal so that they can determine what is the best way to dispose of the information. And so in that sense, it's really, how do you establish yourself as a content expert as much as possible? And there are tons of articles. You know, again, to use our blog as an example, we don't try to be the experts. Bob, this gets back to one of the points you made, but we'll point you in the direction of where it is.
Right.
Which is sometimes half the battle because, you know, 20 years ago, or even you could make the point 10, 15 years ago, there wasn't enough information out there. Completely the opposite. There's too much. Absolutely. What's valuable? What's not? So getting back to this goal, when we talk about visibility, you know, we need to know who we're going after. Because if you're visible to a bunch of consumers, but you're B2B, did you actually accomplish anything?
Well, it's the same thing as, you know, if you're selling Mary Kay, everybody's familiar with Mary Kay.
Oh, yeah.
You're probably not going to run in Popular Mechanics, because guess what? Your clients aren't there. So that's where you need to be.
That's true. Cool. By the way, just I did see one note. If anybody who's online who has a question or comment, just go ahead and post it as far as a text. When you see me leaning in and squinting, that is what I'm doing, is trying to read that. So, relationship. You hear that a lot in social media, and kind of what we were talking earlier about the telephone and how that changed relationship building. Well, relationship building has changed dramatically over just the past 5 or 6 years. So how's that different? What do you guys feel as far as that goes?
From my personal standpoint, I think people have an easier time making blunders in the relationship building process online because, just like Zach said, you're not going to walk in and see somebody that you know in a giant eagle and start pounding them with the heavy sell. But we know a lot of people out there that have no problem pounding away when they first meet you. For instance, on LinkedIn, there's a reason that if you're not connected with someone, you can't even post a web address in the message to send to them. There's a reason for that, because guess what? They don't want it. They don't know you yet. There's no reason for them to have your website yet. But all these platforms make it very easy to make those faux pas, and you don't even know you're doing it. People are zealous. They love to talk about what they have to offer. If they weren't excited about what they did, they wouldn't do it. But people forget, you know what, there still is an etiquette. There still is a reason to reach out. Hey, I just really want to know more about your business. Maybe we can meet for coffee. And I think one of the biggest problems is people see this as the end-all be-all. We're connected on LinkedIn, great. There is no next step. There is no take that to the next level, because I'm a huge fan of social media, but nothing will replace a handshake. And I think people are losing sight of that because it is so easy. I have 3,000 connections on LinkedIn. I have all the friends I need. Do you? I would love to go down someone's connections and say, tell me a little bit of something about them, other than where they work and everything that you see on their homepage. And I think that's where, if you get mired down in it, where you can lose out. And for me, that's why I am more selective. I want to know about every single person that I'm connected with on LinkedIn, because that's how I'm ultimately going to be that resource for them. So.
And this is one of the things you bring up about the fact that you need not only to establish relationships on a personal handshake basis, but also take that step to establish a relationship on LinkedIn.
Oh, absolutely.
I use the example, I will thank them for hooking up with me and ask them a question, okay? And if they respond back, then I would consider them, I put those people in a separate group. Those are the people that I'm willing to refer because they took the initial step or the secondary step of saying, yeah, let's start a relationship.
Well, how about those folks that try and connect with you that say that you're friend? You've never met them a day in your life, and you wouldn't just walk up to somebody and go, we're friends.
Well,
It would take you more than 30 seconds, even you, Bob. It would take us longer than that. But they just assume, and the reason that they pick friend, why? Because it's the default. You don't have to put in an email address. It's easier, softer. It doesn't make it right. And those people I look at in a completely different way.
And see, I wasn't aware of that, and that's, I guess, because I am honest about how I'm connecting with them.
Oh,
So
right.
if they're not a friend, I've never clicked it.
But have you had people tell you they're your friend and you don't know them?
I don't know them, and I'm like, how are they saying that? Because when it asks me, I'll either say they're a colleague who's done business, or if there's something else and it asks me their email, of course I'll go to my Yahoo account and I'll look at their email and input that. So I was not even aware that you could default.
That's the default.
Because if they're not my friend, I would never.
Exactly. However, and here's the deal, even if they are your friend, isn't it cordial to say, hey, so glad to have found you here on LinkedIn, hoping to see you again soon. Take that, 10 seconds to just type a little message, make you stand out from the 100 other people that didn't take that time.
To use the audio.
Yeah, I mean, it just, even if you are the friend, it's still not just, I just never leave it at the default.
Because even if they choose that default and you get that message, and they're not your friend, I think they're more likely to just ignore you anyway, because of the fact that they think that you're trying some kind of, game or foolery to connect with them.
Well, here's in my mind, and this is just my perspective, not the truth. If I get that friend message from somebody that I've never met, they are either phishing my contacts or they're trying to build their number of connections. That doesn't make me a resource for them. So I'm very cognizant of paying attention. I'll tell you what, it's just like customer service. If you're dealing with a business that provides good customer service, you notice it. If somebody connects with you in the correct fashion on any one of these platforms, you notice it. And guess what? That all comes back to that feeling that you have about someone. It's very kinesthetic. Even just a few words makes a huge difference.
Did you have
I wanted to, they may not have a clue.
They don't have a clue, usually, and the scary thing is only their friends will tell them that they're doing it wrong. We as people who don't know them aren't going to chime in and go, this is just a tip for you, because being honest, from my perspective, I'm a people pleaser. I don't want to make them angry by telling them there is a better way for you to do this, even though it would be a benefit to them. I'm not comfortable in that field. But you're right, and especially, think about this. The kids that are texting now, there's no punctuation, there's no capital letters, there's no way they're ever going to be able to craft a message that would tell someone, this is what I want to, thanks, THX. It just makes my teeth itch.
20 years younger than me, when they send me text messages, I just call them and say, I have no idea.
Exactly. And how long does it take them to take that phone call because they're texting somebody else? There's a whole gap, and I get it.
And this is why kids don't play Wheel of Fortune. Why would I buy a vowel? I don't need one.
It's already done.
I remember, it's kind of funny from my standpoint because I outsourced my kids, okay? Both my wife and I are on our second marriage, and so I became a father when the youngest was 15. So I went immediately from thinking of kids as just being younger people to, no, they're my kids. And I was just as much of a jerk as they are. Okay? I was just as inappropriate in terms of what I wrote. My handwriting was absolutely horrible. My parents had very good handwriting because they were raised to have good handwriting. As far as my grammar goes, it's okay, but it's not great. I mean, you can almost see from a generational shift us getting away from that. And you can make the point where it's good, you can make the point where it's bad, but it gets to it's the consumer of the message who gets to choose. If someone sends a LinkedIn that just says, hey, respond because you're a friend, because that's the default, younger people are probably not going to care one way or the other. Well, they're going to do whatever, but they're not going to think, oh, you know, whereas we're like, oh, no, you should spend that 15 seconds because it's well placed. But we're not going to spend 5 minutes to send a handwritten note. Are you crazy? You know, and so there is this change that's going on. And so if you are going, it's knowing who you're talking to or who you're trying to talk to and recognizing that they can choose how to react to whatever it is you're doing. And unfortunately, there is such a freedom and flexibility now because of social media.
Well, that's why I ask. You try and be on top of, you know, if I'm dealing with a 50-year-old man, my first guess is not that he's going to want to text me back and forth, but I'm always cognizant to ask. Mike's already said he's in his 50s. Mike returns a text really quick. So that may be his choice. I'm guessing it's LinkedIn, and I'm right there with him, but I always make sure and I ask because 20-year-olds don't want called. Have you ever spoken with someone 20 or under on the phone? It is like yes, no, and probably because they're texting while they're talking with you and they're just holding it up or whatever, but it's a completely different conversation with someone like Karen who gets, all right, I know how to interact on the phone for an hour and a half. You know, that's my fallback, but I try and establish which platform, where are you comfortable, and if there's more than one, then give them to me. I'm happy to do it how you need to receive it.
To go back to one of the original things when we talked about how you communicate and not to solve problems, what social media has done for me has made me a better writer because I will take that extra time because I am B2B, B2C. I will spell out thank you, even on Twitter, you know. I will spell out those words. I will make sure the punctuation is because that could be my first in a relationship with that person. And again, chances are I'm not dealing with someone. Now the other side, what Heather said, you may have noticed, my daughter's at a business meeting. She's in Chicago, 26. She's texting me because we've been working on some things, and she's been texting me through this whole meeting while she's at her meeting. And now I can't tell her to call her, but I will get to a point sometime, Jesse, call me. But that's how that's how they're communicating. And I know her abbreviations, so I can get through her sentences pretty well. But
now I know you've got a method behind your madness as far as building that relationship with LinkedIn. Could you explain that a little bit?
Well, again, it was about taking the word I out. You know, I started my first involvement was LinkedIn, and it was building a group, and it was to give value. Now my group, Link Local Akron, if you're not a member, be a member if you're doing local business because there's 3,300 members in that group. It's probably the 4th largest local group in the state of Ohio behind Ohio State. You know, so there's Link Local Akron, Link Local Cleveland. Two very, good groups, good cross-section of people. And the reason I did that was to bring value. If you look at the discussions that I put in there, varies about every 2 out of 10 maybe will have something to do with insurance. But the other 8 are related items that I think are of value that you should know, that you should be aware of. And they're very easy to send, just based on the technology of how you can share articles.
Mike, as the originator of that group, and it is a very dominant group in the area, how much do you feel it's your responsibility to watch over or
I watch it every day.
Maintain the credibility of it?
I delete discussions. I mean, I can tell you, if someone puts in a discussion, there's no picture, I will delete it. Just things like that, because I want there to be value in the discussion topics. So because that brings people back.
Meaning their profile picture.
Yeah, there's no picture. Yeah, if there's no profile picture, I'll delete it because I want, because there's a great association between the content and your picture. Because you are promoting yourself. I mean, at the end of the day, you're promoting yourself.
Well, and the study is, if you have a profile that has a photo, it's 7 times more likely to be viewed than one that doesn't. So And make sure it's the appropriate photo. It's not you with the ball cap and the Leonard
And
Skinner
I will
shirt.
reach out to, and then sometimes when somebody will send something, I've reached back out and I said, you know what, you may want to change this. Or somebody I can tell they're new because they'll put a link in there and it doesn't go anywhere, you know, and I'll email them back, say your link doesn't work.
Remember
You know?
MySpace? Everybody remember MySpace? It's like dead as a doornail. Remember having Tom as your friend? It was that big noob. Yeah, everybody had Tom. Not having a photo on LinkedIn makes me look at people like they're friends with Tom on MySpace.
Here's another thing that we do is, as you see, we do a lot of blogging and then we do the newsletter and all that kind of thing. So if we have a contact with someone, phone, email, in person, whatever, what we try to do within about a 24-hour period, and we tell them we're going to do this, is we sign them up for our newsletter and we send them the latest issue of the newsletter. So within a 24-hour period, that person gets here is more information about us. And with the opportunity to opt out, they don't have to keep it or anything along those lines. So they get information. We're willing to share information. Here's an example about it. But also as a sneaky thing, every one of our newsletters has only the first paragraph or so of each of our articles. And then it's a link to the blog. I can see if they went to our blog. So today we meet somebody. Tomorrow they get our newsletter. Friday I can see whether or not there was any particular articles they were interested in. Okay? Total cost for that, and we just use Constant Contact. There's a lot of services for newsletters. Total cost for that operationally is $40 a month. And right now we're up to about 2,300 people.
Ooh, you're coming up on the bump up. You'll have to come out of the pocket a little more.
Yep.
So, things like can and cannot say.
Right.
Is there another value that you can be bringing to someone that takes you a little bit out of your realm, but still lets you be their hero, their resource, because you've provided them with some other information that you're not held accountable for in that way? You know what? Maybe it's kind of really cool. I'm just trying to think.
Well, that's where,
Nothing financial, nothing insurance driven, but
Right.
still brings value.
Right, I mean, relationships, and
Sure.
I like to be a resource for people, so, you know, if I know someone, let's say, in staffing, right? So I know someone looking for a job.
Right.
I might say, oh, I know someone that can help you.
Well,
well, see, that's the value with that group. I can probably go into any situation and be talking with somebody, and I'll know in the back of my head somebody that they should be talking to because of the relationships I build with these people on there. I'm not looking for something in return, because to me, it's all going to come back to you.
Oh, it
Well,
does.
right, and that's really a lot of what I do in networking, is try to connect people to people and resources and things like that, but I'm just nervous about,
Sure.
people expect immediate results.
but here's the
You
thing.
know, they expect an immediate response.
Here's the thing, most financial organizations will have some distribution of information.
Right.
And a lot of them are still doing the physical newsletter, which I find absolutely insane, but they are. So there is some kind of methodology for approving of distribution of information.
We have it, we have it.
Okay, so what, again, as far as a content expert, does not necessarily mean that you are providing opinion. It means you're providing content. So I do think that there are still opportunities out there. They have to be very carefully watched,
That's what I'm saying.
and you need the organization to empower the person.
Oh, yeah, we have all the resources. I'm just more nervous about if you got into these little discussions where someone asks a question, someone answers a question, people post things, and then all of a sudden it's linked back to me, and I didn't really say that, but it looks like I said that. That's the kind of stuff.
Well, no, what you do, because, I'm not
Right.
securities licensed anymore just for the reasons you were mentioning,
Well,
because I didn't want all those
that's what
guidelines.
makes me
But what I do in those situations, when I see a discussion, I will see that person, and then I will reach out to that person personally. I'm not going to involve myself in the thread of discussion. I'm going to reach out to that person personally.
That would be the thing that would make me nervous. But no, we have all kinds of good
Right.
materials.
Yeah.
My only other concern is that on social media, people expect immediate responses, and it's a lot of work, I think, to have to constantly, I mean, I think it's probably worth it, but it's constant.
The one thing that I would recommend is because especially when you're talking about any of the regulations that are going in there, is you have to get buy-in from the organization that you're with, because otherwise you're the one out there who is sharing information and posing as a content expert or whatever.
We have everything improved.
Right.
I have resources for everything. It's just.
Cool. but then be very careful in terms of how you are positioning yourself for that reason. Now, that said, there are some companies who are doing a very, very good job of navigating that, because if all you do, let's put 5, let's just make it financial services. We put 5 financial services up there, and this one is extremely concerned about getting sued, so they barely put anything out there at all. Let's just make it 3 up there. These guys will drop anything at the drop of a hat. They will answer, they will give you opinions. And then we've got Goldilocks in the middle, all right? No one's going to want to deal with, I shouldn't say no one, but people are going to be reluctant to deal with the first person because they will never answer. They will never give value.
And they're not visible.
Right. So they're all, so where's the value there? On the other extreme, they're great, but A, apparently their answers aren't necessarily thought all the way through, and B, from an internal standpoint, they're really subject to some liability and some issues. Whereas from a customer service, getting back to that customer service concept, if there are efforts being made by the organization to actually provide information, however stringently that's focused or filtered, the end user response is going to be great. You know, the world is, you see all sorts of times where companies tripped over their own feet because of their misuse of social media, and the ones that get the real good press are the ones that just took care of the customer. You know, but the ones who, well, no, because that's the way we do things, you know, so.
Well, and I think for me, ultimately, it'll be enough mastery to know that, so people couldn't post things, like just email. I wouldn't want things, posted. I would just want personal emails that weren't for public.
Yep.
Well, and if you're feeling uncomfortable with not having that immediacy, if it's been a couple of days, say, hey, I'm sorry it's taken me this long to get back with you. People are usually okay with that. They know, you know what, you're doing social media, but that's not your job. Your job is to do this. So you have stepped away. For people that is their job, it's a little bit different, but for you, they realize, guess what? You're not miracling yourself this business. You have to write and this and follow up with people you already have, and they know that, because guess what? They have a job too. It's just that it's an easier way to get in touch with folks, but I try and be as on top of it as I can. Sometimes it falls through the cracks. Sometimes you're looking for an answer. I know that sometimes there's an element of research that takes place, and it takes a little while. Just tell them that. You know, it's still human to human, even though it's in type. Just be cognizant of telling them, sorry, whatever.
One of the points that we've talked about this a little bit, but just to hit real quickly, what are you doing now? Do you know? Because there's a lot of folks who may be posting, they may be adding stuff, but is there a rhyme or reason? Take a step back and measure what your efforts are. Are you actually going after your market? Are you actually trying to communicate in a regular way? Now what? This is really the now what part, right? I mean, every day there's a new site. Every day there's a new tool. Every day there's a new fad. You know, the Facebook IPO. All right, when they did the stock offering, it went gangbusters. Okay, the honeymoon was already over before it went public. Okay, because a lot of cases, yeah, the books were kind of not great, whatever, but that never stopped anybody before. And now with all the security issues and questions and all that, you can almost tell that Facebook is not quite. Well, that's okay. There's Pinterest. Pinterest. That's it. Pinterest. There's Foursquare. There's Google Plus. I'm sure for somebody.
Google Places.
Yeah. So where do we go with these new sites?
Of the ones that are out there now, there are certain ones obviously that are dominant. Mm-hmm. And they're dominant for a reason. Mm-hmm. And those ones that are dominant have been dominant for quite some time. How do we know if Pinterest is a fad or like, I mean,
don't know.
Well,
how do you spread yourself? Do you spread yourself too thin? Do you take too much time?
Well, let's not forget, there are people that think Facebook's a fad. So it really is dependent upon who is your audience. I think Pinterest is here to stay. It's one of my favorites. I love it. But I realize that I'm in the minority still. But it's a great tool for me. So I think it really depends on, again, benchmarking. Are you getting results? Are you accomplishing what you want to accomplish? And we were talking a little bit about this. I really like to take and really sink my teeth into one platform, know it inside and out, in as much as I can, and then move on to the next one. Because that whole shotgun approach, I'm there but I'm not there, that sends a message as well. So LinkedIn was first. I'm on Facebook mostly to spy on my kids. And it's personal for me, it's not business. I'm on Pinterest because that's what I do for me and that's fun for me. So my motivation in being in all of these different things, Foursquare, I use as a platform to advertise when I go into a member's business, people know I'm there. People know I'm at Hattie's right now because I posted, that's where I am. But I was also very cognizant to post doing Simplex-IT's Lunch and Art and their website. So I don't know that there's any way to tell what is a fad and what's not, because the fad is to you, or to you, or to you, and it's different for absolutely everyone.
What do your customers currently use for social media?
And are you asking them?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing. Where should I advertise? Well, take a look.
What do they read?
Yeah, what are your A-list customers doing? Where do they get their information from?
Now, how are you using Pinterest? Are you using that in any type of business aspect? Because you have it up here, and it's mainly from what I've seen, and I'm on it and I've used it, more personal. Like Facebook, you can have a business page.
Sure.
LinkedIn,
Well, guess what? I have a business board, and it's called Local Quality Small Businesses. It's got their logo as the picture, and I've got a link to their website. So yeah, I can use it from a business perspective. It's not my first go-to, but if I can bring value for those members, that's what I do. I also have a page that is just, it's called, I'm not even going to get into it, Heather's Eye Candy, and it's all just cute guys. Completely separate, but that's what I do for me.
So many
Bob's
pictures.
on there.
I know, it's like,
Mike's next.
But now you're using that for people that are members of the chamber. But how would a business itself use that? for
Depends
them?
on the business.
Here's how I use it. On my Pinterest, people will request it, whatever, if it's connect with me on that. I can in turn find out who they are, and if that's a person that I may see a value, now it's another avenue to reach back out to them.
Or how about, do I have something in
Initiate it.
common with them? Do they like the same ice cream that I like? That's a talking point. It all comes back around.
Let's say on my Pinterest, I put a lot of quotes. It drives a bunch of traffic to me, because people love the quotes. They love the quotes, and I put a lot of books, books you should read. So people
books,
say,
yeah.
I've repinned your stuff. I can go and find out about that person, say, this person looks kind of interesting. I'm going to now reach out to that person and engage that conversation, which would be, I saw you on Pinterest. How are you using it? They will respond back to me every time.
here's the challenge that I would give to all of these sites, is that everyone is asking the question, how can I make money off this? So look to see what other people are doing. Because Facebook started out with no idea of marketing or advertising. That wasn't the original concept. So did Google, so did Yahoo. All of these sites started without real advertising dollars or marketing purposes to it. And you can see how they all generated and developed. So, and we got to wrap up because I see some people are running out of their time. So what's final thoughts?
I'd say in my case, if you got an email from me, you would see my picture and you'd see underneath it links to every one of those sites. I don't know where my clients are going to find me or where I'm going to find them. So I'm involved in all of them. Not necessarily because I know that the phone's going to ring because of LinkedIn, Twitter, or Facebook, but I know when people, because the way my business, people are driven to my capture page. And then I start to engage with them. Now, they do get an auto-respond message right away for the time aspect of it. They're getting their quote, and they get a video. Hey, how you doing? Thanks for reaching out. Appreciate the opportunity to earn your business. They get a video from me. It's all automated. And then I can follow that up with the quote. Now, the other aspect of those sites is, in the meantime, guess what? They're going to see, who is this guy that's just responding to me? And they may be using Pinterest, they may be using LinkedIn, they may be using Twitter. I don't know, but you know what? They're going to find me on every one of those. So that's why I use it.
I think for me to wrap up, key for me is be a resource, whether it be on Facebook to your family, keeping in touch, LinkedIn to your business prospects. I totally believe in that whole Bob Berg giver's gain. If you can be a resource for someone and be their hero, you're going to be top of mind with them, and ultimately that's the kind of thing that will add to your bottom line. That's how I feel.
Deb, my thoughts on this is, as you see, it isn't going away. It's not a magic bullet or anything along those lines. You have to know what you're trying to communicate and to whom. And you have to measure those two questions against everything you do when you're talking about social media. If you don't, you run the risk of just doing fluff. And there is so much fluff out there on social media that, you know, it's real easy to get lost, even if it's not fluff. So answer those two questions. The technology is going to change. So whatever the technology, what they do or what they don't do, is for, you know, Pinterest, Facebook, whatever, a year from now is going to be completely different. But who you're trying to communicate to and what are probably not going to. So if you have a rock solid foundation on those two questions and those 2 points, it should be a lot easier for you to figure out how to use those tools. I will also make a point, and I should have made a slide on this. There's a group called the Akron Bloggers Community that meets on the last Thursday of each month down at
Mocha Joe's.
Mocha Joe's, just down the street.
9:30 to 11, right?
Yep, it's a free group. It's been around for about 3 years or so, and they just talk about more of the technical details. And you'll get some value if you're new to it. You'll get some value, or you'll be able to add some value. As there's a group on LinkedIn. We will be adding you folks to our e-newsletter, sending you a later copy. We'll also send an email that has information on the Akron Bloggers group, and feel free to unlist us and, you know, whatever.
About just two minutes, just that maybe this may excite you, it may frustrate you, but the phase that we are in, and it's upon us, is the aspect of the mobile side.
Oh, good point.
The percentages of people searching off of this and the iPads is increasing at an increasing rate. And we take that into how I use it. I have a mobile business card. I don't need to carry business cards anymore, because when I'm with somebody, I tell them, text Sheehan, S-H-E-E-H-A-N, to 72727, and you will get my mobile business card, which has my phone number, my email, my website, and I'm expanding it, but it's going to have a capture page and everything. So I do not need to carry business cards anymore. And then I will now, once you do that, I now have your information. And the end result for that, for a restaurant or something like that, is guess what you're doing? You're building a list. And it's just neat. But yeah, you can just text Sheehan, S-H-E-E-H-A-N, to 72727, you get my business card.
Cool.
Mike, when you want to enter a contest, do you throw your phone in the basket?
I let other people win.
Two real quick things. One, our 5th anniversary annual picnic is going to be next month. We usually have about 70 people or so. It's just down the street at our Worldwide International headquarters. Just burgers. We'll probably be showing a little bit of technology, but we just do that over in the corner if somebody's interested in taking a look. So absolutely take advantage of that. We'd love to see you there. So there will be no, technically that's our lunch and hour, although it's in the evening. Our September lunch and hour, as I mentioned, is going to be Office 2013, but we're going to talk more about what this is. We would love to see you guys there. As always, these are free, these are open to the public, and hopefully you get some value out of them. And I want to thank Mike and Heather for taking part of this, and thank you very much.